So I'm Dr. Frankie Wood Black, and I appreciate everybody's flexibility as the American Chemical Society meeting once again fell on the first week of classes. It works out okay because NOC allows for enrollment through today. So that does help me, so I don't necessarily get too far ahead for everyone. So that works out really well. We will catch up. It's not going to be a problem. And there are a lot of materials out there to help you out. So as I mentioned, I'm Dr. Frankie Wood Black. I do want to kind of go through, today we're going to take a tour of Blackboard because many of you are new to Blackboard or you use another learning management system and are not quite as familiar with Blackboard. So we're going to kind of walk through that. I'm going to show you where some key items are, and we'll talk about getting on to WebAssign and getting your textbook as well. I think most of you have already accessed WebAssign. Some of you may have gotten an email. I double checked yesterday and I sent out notes for those of you who had not accessed WebAssign. Really want to try and get that resolved today if we can. I know some people do end up with technical problems, and so I wanted to kind of get that out there. So even if you are having technical problems, the first two assignments in WebAssign, one is getting familiar with WebAssign, and one is kind of just a math refresher. Those are primarily to make sure that A, you get into WebAssign, you've been able to navigate the systems, and they're to help you get through the class and be successful in the class. So today I'm on the Enid campus. I think most of you in this class are Zoom from remote areas or from Stillwater. I do want to let you know that I do have physical office hours in Stillwater on Tuesdays. I teach a 7:30 class Tuesday morning on the Tonkawa campus, and then I leave for Stillwater right after that. So I'm typically in my office by 9:30 on the Stillwater campus, and I'm usually there until about noon. I do my 10:30 Zoom office hours as well. And how I work those is I get on Zoom at 10:30 and I leave my Zoom open. And that way, if you need help, you can jump in to that Zoom. I will tell you that it will say that the host is there and they are waiting. I may be with another student, and so just be patient and I will get that in there. So we'll talk about how to get to those Zoom office hours as well. So I did post the first day video. I do record. If anyone wants the transcripts, I do transcribe as well. And the Zoom transcription works really, really well. I don't necessarily post it unless somebody requests it. So if you would like to have the Zoom transcription, please message me, and you can message me a couple of different ways. One is you can go to your Blackboard and click on messages. I'm going to go ahead and do this as a student view just so that you all can see that as well. So here in the student view, if you click on messages, that will take you to the messages and you can write a new message. Or you can use this little email box here and it will also get you to the messaging. I am willing to do emails. I just want to caution everybody about emails. I get anywhere from 100 to 200 emails a day. And so I try to look through first to see if there are students that have errors or need answers to questions, but it's much easier for me to find out if you have a question or a concern if you use the messaging. Two reasons. One is it tells me exactly which class you're in, and I can find out. So when somebody says I'm having trouble with a question on this homework, I know which homework you're talking about. I teach General Physics 1, I teach Engineering Physics 2, I teach General Physics 2. I have chemistry for engineers, I have thermodynamics, and I have several directed studies. So just telling me you're in my physics class doesn't necessarily help. So if you do email me, please let me know that you're in my Physics 1 class, and that does help me out a great deal. But messaging works really, really well in Blackboard. So I encourage you to use that messaging feature. And we don't run into the snags sometimes of when there's an update in the iOS system, or there's an update somewhere along the way. So that's one thing that I do want to kind of show folks. So that will help. So if you do have questions, please ask questions. If you have a question, someone else is likely to have the same question. I do use weekly surveys after this week, and you will see those pop up in the assignments. They're 5 to 10 easy points. You do that. That's how I monitor attendance. It's also how I direct what extra help you need in the lecture. And it also helps me create example problems that are more relevant to you. So I do read those weekly surveys that everybody puts in. And I want to make sure that people have the resources that they need in getting the questions answered. But don't wait till the weekly survey to ask a question either. Rule of thumb, if you are working in WebAssign, I typically give you 5 opportunities to answer the question. We are going to run into formatting issues, like how to write in an exponent in WebAssign. If you're missing the question the first time around, double check to make sure you typed in exactly what you thought you typed in. Make sure it's not a formatting problem. Make sure it's something. But if you miss it the first time around, and there are no penalties in this system for missed answers, or at least I don't have them set up that way. So you can go ahead and miss the answer. Okay, so you do the problem, you miss the answer. Do the problem again, see if you figured out how you missed the answer, see what's going on, try it again. If you still miss it the second time, hopefully by this time you'll go, oh, dang it, I typed in a 5 when I really meant to type in an 8. If that's not why you're missing it, and you try it a third time and you miss it, that's the time to reach out to ask a question, because you don't want to use up your other chances. And I want to make sure you're asking a question there, because what happens in General Physics 1 is students tend to get a little confused, tend to get somewhere down the way, and then they get lost. And if you're not asking a question at the time that you're having that struggle, you're tending, you kind of build on it, and we get into a problem. So my rule of thumb is, if you've missed a WebAssign question 3 times, that's the time to reach out and ask a question. You should either use your messaging feature or use the Ask the Instruction feature in WebAssign. That's actually very helpful, because it takes me directly to the question that you have, and it shows me what you have typed in. So it makes it easy for me to say, oh, you reverse those 2 numbers, or it's a formatting problem, or we had one yesterday that somebody put in, and I looked at it and I can't tell why WebAssign was marking it wrong either. And so I'm not worried about the content there. And if we run into that where we're not sure why WebAssign's marking it wrong either, I generally give you credit for it, and I add those points back in. I do not have each individual assignment linked into Blackboard from WebAssign, and that's going to cause a couple of issues. One issue is that I have to manually go in and type your grade, but it allows me to make those corrections, so that's okay. But if I have to manually type, my fingers are much faster than the computer, and so sometimes I type them in wrong, and you do have the opportunity to say, hey, I got a 45.7 according to WebAssign, and you just typed in 5.7. Please, please, please reach out and say, fix that, and I will fix it. So I have no problem, because, we're human, and when we type, those things happen. So definitely do that. Another caution about WebAssign. There are times, and we've run into this in the past, and it's not very often, there are times that you will complete an assignment in WebAssign. On your computer, it looks done, but when I see it on my end, it looks like you didn't finish it or it didn't get submitted. That is a timeout error in your browser, and you double check. So please double check in your WebAssign, make sure that you save it. Some of you travel, some of you work, some of you do a lot of things. So my recommendation is, if you can, print out your WebAssign homework so you have a paper copy, and you can write your answers on that paper copy, and I will utilize that to correct if we run into a problem there. So that is another helpful tip for WebAssign so that we get that. So let's kind of just walk through Blackboard for a little bit. First thing is, you will see the calendar. That's the other problem of not having WebAssign tied directly to Blackboard, is that you do have due dates in WebAssign, and we will go over there and I will show you how to do that. And we have due dates in Blackboard, and the WebAssign ones may or may not show up. I try to go in and create the grade column in Blackboard to mimic the grade column in WebAssign. I'm not always really good about getting that done in time. And so I'm trying to do that a little bit better, but I'm also trying to provide you a weekly guide of what's due as well. So hopefully you're looking at it and trying to take care of that. Occasionally, what will happen is when I am adding a grade column in the grade book, all of a sudden the assignment will show up as due. And you go, wait a second, I did that assignment. Well, if it's probably a WebAssign assignment, and it's an artifact of the fact that I'm having to go in and manually add in those WebAssign grades. So that's just an item there. So if you click on the calendar, you'll see dots on your calendar, and that will tell you something on the calendar that's due or something on the calendar that's there. So right now it's showing you that part, and you've got that in your calendar. If you go over on Monday, you're going to see in here, because I do have that, there's our general physics time, and these are the homework assignments that are due in your in Blackboard and in primarily in Blackboard, some of them in WebAssign. I will tell you, because I am not in a room that I can actually run through stuff, I am going to change the due date of this 55-gallon drum assignment. So that'll get due later in the week, but I will make that change. So just be aware of that. So that's where that is. Under the instructor information, you have a Zoom office hour link. So if you're trying to jump into my Zoom office hours, you can do that immediately from right here. I do have a little guide on what office hours and how to use them, but most of you in this class are upper division folks, and you know how to use office hours. So that's not an issue there. I've got a little bit of background for me, but if you do have to schedule an office hour outside, this does link to my calendar, and you can actually kind of set a time there as well. So that's just a little bit of instructor information. I provide a lot of general resources, and so as the semester goes through, you're going to see this kind of fill up. And there's a couple other places where we have resources under here, learning resources, and you'll see it there. I do want to let everyone know that Google Gemini is available, and you can get the Pro plan free for students. I do use AI, and we will talk about how I use AI, and you'll see a lot of stuff, because I am also an ambassador for ChatGPT Zero, which tells us and we've gone through a lot of classes on how to ethically and responsibly use AI. And as we go through and use AI, I will talk to you about the intellectual property issues associated with AI, And we will go through a lot of that over the course of the semester. But I've got some tools that I really think are helpful, and we can use AI in a positive way. So I had somebody unmute. Did you have a quick question? Okay. Just was stopping to make sure that you had, because this is a fully Zoom class, if you want to use the chat feature, totally use it. I do watch the chat, and that makes it a little easier. I don't require that you have your video on. It's helpful if you're asking a question to turn your video on, but I also know bandwidth. Several of you are on phones, several of you are rural. I've even had people take this class from the nacelle of a wind tower. So I am aware that we do have bandwidth, and so that's one of the things that I do take into account. But just giving you an idea that if you want to get the Gemini Pro plan from Google, they do have an offer there as well. How do you access your textbook? We are going to use WebAssign. You've got Cengage technical support, you've got your own dashboard, and you have the e-textbook. Also under learning resources below, I've actually added a couple of OpenStax textbooks so that if this textbook doesn't work for you, there's other ways to get the information. We have the Zoom link for classes right here on the page, and you have the Zoom link for office hours as well. We'll come back to WebAssign in just a second. I do have some getting started contract. I didn't ask you to do this one. This is an old one, but it kind of gives you an idea of what's to be expected. You've got a few other things and those items that are there. I did ask you to introduce yourself to the class, and as of yesterday morning, I think I responded to everybody who had already introduced themselves, so thank you very much. And then each module, as we go through the class, will open up looking at this. So we're going to go to Learning Resources next. When you open up your Learning Resources, most of you, not everyone, but most of you are enrolled in my online physics laboratory, the OLive physics laboratory. How that works is we have a dedicated Zoom time, 1:30 on Monday afternoons. I will get on and talk about the lab and talk about how we're going to do the lab and what's required for the lab. Some of you are taking an in-person lab. Now the Zoom lab is considered in person, because you're going to be required to get one of these devices. This is an IO lab device. And it is essentially a compact way of getting all the lab equipment that we use in the physical physics lab in a device that you can use anywhere. So you can rent it from the NOC bookstore. Those of you who are in Stillwater, you need to order it from the Tonkawa bookstore, and you will get it from there, and they do a shipment to the NOC Stillwater campus, so you can get it that way. So if you haven't tried to get your IO lab, please start getting that. I will tell you that right now it is still using a regular USB adapter, and we're working on how to work with Chromebooks. So just be aware of that. At least the NOC campuses, you can go use the laboratories or the computers for the computer labs there to do that. Or you can come see me on Tuesday mornings, and I can assist you with that as well. But our lab time will meet at 1:30. I'll describe the laboratory, I'll video that, and you do have that. For your in-person lab, if you're on the Enid campus, it's going to be Dr. Hageb. And if you're an in-person lab on the Tonkawa campus, it's going to be Dr. Collier. So we do all work together, and you're going to get a really good lab experience. Most people are really excited because it is a hands-on lab. It is considered an in-person lab, and physics is just fun to do it out in the real world. So you do that. I have a Google Drive that has general resources, so you do have that. Our first lab will be doing graphing, and we will do graphing throughout the course. So I have helpful guides on graphing. As an NOC student, you have access to Microsoft 365. All you need to do is go to the NOC homepage, and you go to information technology, and you go to save on software and technology products. And there is how you get Microsoft 365. So you can get Microsoft 365, and so you can get all the Microsoft products. Now, I don't care whether you use Microsoft or Google. I do accept Google Docs and Google Sheets, and I do talk about how to use both. But I did want you all to know that you do have access to Microsoft 365. Here is the access for an alternate text. And for those of you, because we are going to touch on some college algebra techniques, and for some of you, it's been a little while. I also have attached an OpenStax or an open resource algebra text. We will be using a video analysis tool, and we'll talk more about that on Monday, but you do have your video analysis tool there. And then I have CamScanner. It is an app for your phone. It works for both iPhones and Android. I will let everybody know that I'm an Android user. And so I will, I can help you more there than I can help you on iPhones. But you can get the pro version of CamScanner if you use your student email. So you can go get the pro version. I'm requesting that you do that because I've had a lot of trouble with the different operating systems and things like that. I've had trouble opening documents. And so I request that all your documents that you submit for me be in PDF. We can talk about how to get a PDF off of Word or off of your Google Docs. You just save it as a PDF. That helps, or you can print it as a PDF. But when you're doing handwritten work, like on your exams, you need to take your picture with CamScanner and do it as a PDF file, and it will combine it all into one file. I used CamScanner when I was a consultant. I still do a bit of consulting, but even before I came to NOC, I was using this product, and it's a really nice product, and you can get the pro version free. Here's a link to tutor.com. I am requesting that we deal with citing resources. Part of how I deal with the work environment is we want to give credit where credit is due. And so we want to cite if we're using a website, if we're using resources, we want to make sure we properly cite them, and so that you have that as well. I also have the tutor.com online tutoring link there. So you do have a lot of various resources at your disposal. So we've got that in there. So let's go to questions so far. And again, you can use the chat. All right, so here's the general syllabus. The big things that you need to know are my late work policy, my AI policy, and how to cite things. So the good news is all of those are in my adjusted separate one here. This is generally pretty obvious. Will tell you that I do use a slightly different grading scale. I don't use the typical 90 to 100. I use 87.5 to 100 as the A. Yes, you can get the laboratory device from Enid. Enid should have them. If they don't, they can get it from the Tonkawa and get it over here. So yes, you can get that. They're here at Enid. So I do a lot of different things to have that available to you guys. So if you open up the additional course policies for general physics, I ask that you use the APA format for your citations. And I have provided you some extra examples of those citations. I do use AI. I allow you guys to use AI. However, there may be a couple of assignments where I will state no AI permitted. Okay. The first assignment that we're going to do, I would prefer you not use AI, because what we're going to do is do some estimates, and the idea is for you to develop the estimating skill. And so AI is really not going to help you out too much on that anyway. So you really want to do that one. And I want to know your thought process, not somebody else's thought process for that particular problem. So there'll be no AI permitted. There'll be, I do a lot of AI assisted study guides. I will show you how to use LM Notebook, which is a wonderful way to study. And so there are lots of good uses for that on AI, but you can't take the human out of AI. All right. You cannot do it, because AI will be wrong. And depending on which tool you use, it may be wrong more often than not. So be aware of that. I can't say no AI entirely, because your Microsoft products all have AI built in. So do your Google products. So that is one of those things. So for Grammar Assist and all of that, you're going to have that in there. So I've got a question here. I'll get to that. Okay. So we will get that on the video lecture. So we'll get there in just a second. And then we have AI tasks that you may have to go to AI to get something done. So just be aware, I do require that you cite your AI. Okay, I do require that you cite it, and I've given you some information. I've also tried to provide you with the why of some of my policies so that you have a little better understanding. We may or may not have discussion boards, so I do have my discussion board rules. And if there is a grade dispute, one of the problems with all the different classes that I teach, I don't want to wait till the end of the semester to take care of grades. So please note that when I send out an email said, hey, grades are in, that starts a clock going, and after 10 calendar days, that grade is going to be fixed for the rest of the semester. So please, 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 when I send out an announcement said, hey, I've put in grades, go in, double check. And if there's a grade dispute, I'd like to take care of it then. And that's everything from, yeah, typed it in wrong, or I don't understand why you graded this assignment that way. All right, so that one's in there. I do have some graphing standards. You'll run into this on the first test. So we'll talk about that as we go through. My late work policy is essentially I don't take late work unless there's been a prior agreement. Because I do know that there are emergencies. I do know that we have certain situations, and I'm aware of that. But in general, I don't accept late work. So be aware of that. I also will not accept that I've had a technical difficulty within the last 24 hours of an assignment being turned in, because usually you can get around those technical difficulties. And most of my homework, at least all the homework in WebAssign, there's bonus credit if you get it done 48 hours in advance. So don't wait to the last minute to get things in there. On your exams, I do require a statement of original work. And again, we'll talk about that. I don't require this for labs, and I'm not requiring this for the estimation homework that we've got coming up next week. So that one will go there. All right. Any other questions about some of my policies that are burning at the moment? Okay, so now we'll get to the question of where do I think you should start? Okay, first of all, I am going to provide you with more information than you possibly are going to want, because I know that sometimes, even if we give the same lecture 50 times, I may say it's slightly different one time over another, and it's just what you need or what your brain needs to make it click. So I do provide you historical videos. You will have a folder in this module that will say videos from this fall. I break up my videos. I actually do some on-the-fly editing. So I do my announcements, I stop recording, and then I'll start recording the lecture. So you'll see an announcements video, and then you'll see a lecture video. So you do have that. I have left in videos from prior semesters. This was last spring's, so you can see the same things there, and you'll get different ones in there. You don't want to look at announcements because that's just telling you what's due when and all of that good stuff. But you do have the different items. I also will have a link, and I'm not seeing it just yet, is that I do have a YouTube general physics channel, and I will create a channel in YouTube for this class, and I will post that and get that in here. My YouTube, my general physics, YouTube general physics 1 channel has all kinds of historic videos in there, and you can go back and look through it. But so the videos for the spring, when I will usually use a folder like this that says lectures on estimates, conversions, and helps. These would be the primary lecture videos that if I haven't covered it in class, that's where I would go. So that you do have that. My Zoom classes are kind of flipped because again, I've given you tons of information. We will time and I will provide lectures, but they're more summary lectures as we go through this, but you do have those there, but that's where I would start. And then I have examples and supplements where you might go in here and find a video on a homework problem or a video that somebody's asked a question about a certain type of problem. I've got helps and different videos, different homeworks, different solutions, all kinds of different things in these examples and supplements. So if you do your problem wrong first and you're going, let me go see if she's got an example for it, that's the kind of folder that you would go in for that one. I am not expecting, number one, I am not expecting everybody to watch every video that I have posted in Blackboard. Not happening, not worried about it. They're there for you for reference. I do expect you to watch our videos for this semester, but I'm not expecting you to go in and watch every video that's there. If you did, that's all you would be doing is general physics. It's just there because, again, I know that sometimes you say something just the right way for somebody to get there and there helps. And I've tried to break them up into snippets so that they're easy helps. Okay, I had a question come up in the chat. Yes, those are our option. Yeah, your primary lectures, exactly. Most of those videos are optional, and I'm not worried about you actually looking at them all. They're there for helps. They're also there if you have to be gone. I mean, because I know several of you work, several of you are doing labs. A lot of you are, you'll have a special lab. So the ones that I really kind of expect you to look at are the ones that we cover in class, or at least look at the announcements one. The announcement ones may say, watch this video, and that will help you out as well. Also provide extra help with like vectors. So you're gonna see a lot of different things. Over the last year, I've been creating PDF study guides. So I will be adding those study guides, and my goal this semester is to kind of clean this up. So you're going to start seeing these modules get a lot cleaner because I know which videos students have watched in the past, and I may get rid of some of the older ones. But at least I'm starting out with that information that you guys have there. And I will provide those extra links. All right. Any other immediate questions? And then we'll jump into WebAssign real quick. Okay, in your email, you should have gotten an email from the bookstore telling you how to get your inclusive access code for WebAssign. And it looks like most of you have already found it. But what you would do, if you haven't already found it and you haven't logged in, click on that, And it will ask you to create a WebAssign account. It will ask you to do what you need to do. Let's see if I can get in. It's going to holler at me. Yep, hang on. Okay. I'm coming in as a student and you're going to get this. You're an instructor and it's saying I need to go in there. So I'm going to go back and get out of my student one. This card. And you'll see the instructor version is similar to the student version. It's just that the student version is a little cleaner and you won't see all the things that I currently have hidden. All right, now I'm going to view as a student so that you can see it as a student. When you come in, if you have multiple Cengage, you can come in here and click on your class. Let me go there. Accept all cookies. And this is how it's going to appear. So you can see the due dates, the math support, the first homework is due on Monday. And you will occasionally have things that are due at class time. That's pre-work. But most of the time, things are going to be due at 11:59 p.m. so that you will have those in there. So you've got the homework says coming up and you can see the due dates. Now, you will be able to see past assignments or new assignments by clicking on that button. And you do have access to your ebook right here in your online, from your WebAssign. So when you click on your homework, it'll take you to your homework and then you can start looking at that. And I'm going to see if we can get on here. Oh, actually, I want to do it different. Let's do this one. Okay, so this is the homework that's coming up. I wanted to kind of show you a couple of things these are done. Okay, and they've changed up the format just a little bit. All right, so again, use your ask your instructor, ask your teacher feature if you're running into a problem, so that you have that available. So you've got that in there. So hopefully that will help as well. And if you do have a question, somebody else has a question too. And so if I get the same question or several things that students have identified in WebAssign through their Ask the Instructor, I will address them in class. Okay, that was lots of information. I'm going to hang out. I know a couple of you were having a little bit of difficulty, so we can take yours one-on-one. But if you don't have a question, you are free to just jump off. Now, the math homework is something that you have a problem, and if you have a problem, you just ask, because it's more of a refresher. But I tend to go over the most missed problems in class as well.